The big live story on the BBC today, with over 8,000 people viewing it. White House defends Biden as Republicans criticise a pardon for Hunter. He is completely shameless, isn't he? Absolutely shameless. We all knew it was coming, but it's still outrageous because the zeal with which his supporters defended him and claimed that a pardon was never going to happen, never on the table, is laugh out loud funny. The man really is a rat in a suit, and compared to his son, he's a bastion of moral integrity. So I've put together a little compilation of just how low this family is. Lower than a rattlesnake's knackersack. I've done the digging, so you don't have to. Let's have a good chuckle and see what I've found, shall we? Right then, as you all expected, this is shameless, brazen hypocrisy, because it's the type of hypocrisy that only happens in 2024, isn't it? When all of the political class know that the mainstream media are owned by them body and soul. And they know CNN and MSNBC and the BBC and Channel 4 and The Guardian and Sky News and everybody else will run defence for them all the time and cover up for them, because that's what journalists do nowadays. They don't do what they're supposed to do. You know, what the whole reason it's a profession. It's something that professionals can do full time, because most people haven't got the time to read 2 hours of news every day. Most people go to work and look after the kids, and they've got their own problems, so they outsourced the digging to the journalists, and it was their job to look into it full time. You know, they'd do that 9 hours a day, and then they'd give you the news in a nice succinct format. That's the whole reason journalism exists as a profession. But what they do now is they dig into something, find the story, like the Hunter Biden laptop story, for example, and then they ask themselves a question. If I tell people about this story, will it make my side look bad? Or in the case of, what's worse than the type of things Hunter and Joe got up to? Well, I can think of a few things, like industrial scale torture and rogering carried out by chaps who look like this. So the government completely ignores it and lets them get away with it, and the media helps them do it. That's worse, isn't it? That's a little bit worse if you throw innocent children under the bus because of your ideology. Because that's what it is. If the blokes who were doing that looked like me, the BBC and The Guardian would love to tell you about it. But if they don't look like me, they're happy to cover it all up, because that's how evil and toxic this ideology is. Anyway, I went on a bit of a segue there, didn't I? Let's get back to Joe and Hunter, shall we? This gentleman's compiled a greatest hits collection for us on Twitter. Let's watch a bit. I have decided to make a compilation of every time Joe Biden or Karine Jean-Pierre told us that Joe Biden would not pardon Hunter Biden. Another version of every lying journo saying the same thing will be out soon. Enjoy. Or we will.
No one is above the law.
Fox 13 is following breaking news. President Biden has just pardoned his son Hunter, sparing him from a possible prison sentence for federal felony gun and tax convictions. The president had previously said he would not pardon his son or commute his sentence after his convictions in 2 cases in Delaware and California.
Second one, would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear and I said no.
Let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said not a lot's changed since yesterday and that it's a personal matter, but from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
You've also said several times that the president would not pardon or commute the sentence for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
Now, I'm not going to torture you with that because it goes on for ages, and you know the gist of it, don't you? It's video after video after video after video of paid, shill, soulless vampire who will say and do anything for a bit of coin. Just blatantly and brazenly lying to you. And they always have that look on the face as well. That sort of, remember when Tony Romo was on the BBC and he door-stopped one of the journalists and started asking her questions on Question Time or something, and they all looked at him with that sort of sneering look, performative disgust, because he was asking them uncomfortable questions about the BBC and the British government covering up for the worst people that humanity can offer up. And they do that, they sort of have that performative grimace on the face when they're talking to them. And that's what she was doing the whole time, as if it's beneath her to even answer the question or the journalist to ask it, because it's so obvious that Joe Biden will definitely not pardon his son. And now look at them. As I said, lower than a rattlesnake's belly, just the worst creatures imaginable. And they talk down to people like you. You toil every day to feed your kids and you haven't got a criminal record and you never say boo to a goose. And people like that look at you with disgust in the face. It'd be hilarious if it wasn't so tragic. And let's look at the details of the pardon, because it's quite an all-consuming one. Found here shared by Byron York. Joe appears to know exactly when the rampant criminality began. Weird. That's the pardon in full. It says a full and unconditional pardon for any offences he committed or which may have been committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 to December 1st, 2024. Unbelievable. So that's 10 years of corruption, theft, cronyism, tax dodging, taking money off Burisma, and guess what? It's all linked to the ongoing war in Ukraine. So that's in there. Just throw that in there. It's just a minor detail. And beating underage hookers up and all them disgusting photos you've seen of him. So basically, he should be sharing a cell with someone like Gary Glitter for about 25 years. And instead, nothing's going to happen to him because the Biden crime family are above the law. There's only one person in politics who's been prosecuted lately, innit? And it's the orange guy, yeah, for the crime of getting a bank loan off a bank he'd already got a loan off 10 times before. You couldn't make it up, could you? This is the equivalent of Hunter Biden getting let off scot-free for being caught pulling himself off outside a primary school, and then you getting called a felon by the media 500 times because you got a parking ticket in 1992. This is the world we're living in. The mainstream media tells you the exact opposite of the truth. They don't just lie by omission. They don't just make things up. They tell you the exact opposite of the truth. In this day and age, if the media point you at someone and say, that man is the devil, you should invite him round to babysit. That's how bad it's got. This is a great one from the American journalist John Howard. People who insist Biden will pardon Hunter after specifically ruling it out are telling on themselves. They can't imagine someone acting on principle and keeping his word. And he's been community noted there. On December 1st, Joe Biden announced he pardoned his son Hunter. Whoops-a-daisy, you little rat. Why do you think The Guardian left Twitter, by the way? The Guardian didn't leave Twitter out of some form of noble stance. The Guardian left Twitter because of that. Because they lie constantly, and every time they lie now, they get community noted. That's why they left Twitter. Because The Guardian's relationship with the truth is about as abusive as Fred West's was with one of his girlfriends that they found under his crazy paving. And there's story after story after story about the Biden family. Chinese diamonds went to Hunter Biden and his dad always got a percentage. A 20 million haul from Kazakhs, Chinese, Russians, Romanians and Ukrainians revealed in his bank records. And he got a Porsche for taking Joe to dinner with a Kazakh oligarch. Devon Archer's full testimony about how Biden brand was used as intimidation by Burisma. And this is all linked to an ongoing war in Ukraine that's cost 500,000 lives and a few $100 billion. And the only bloke pulled across the coals by the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, is Donald J. Trump, because he got a bank loan. Has it sank in yet? And they've been talking about Donald Trump engaging in retribution for the last 4 years, because that was their insurance policy, because they knew that if he gets in and he actually starts investigating these people, the prisons aren't big enough. We'll have to do what Keir Starmer did and pour a few thousand gangbangers out onto the streets just to make room for the corruption, sleaze, lies, theft, sexual assault, you name it, the whole shebang. American prisons, if they lock up even half of these people, are going to be more crowded than your average Afghan's bunk bed. Keith Olbermann said it himself, didn't he? Pardon Hunter, great, now pardon everybody else. Every prosecutor, Biden admin staffer, media figure, and everyone Trump will persecute. 10 million pardons at least. Seems like he's conceding the fact that there's millions of corrupt swamp creatures that all want locking up there. That's what it sounds like to me. Anyway, that's it all laid out in as succinct a manner as possible. The outgoing president is a criminal. Not for little things like slightly overvaluing a property to the bank like everybody does. No, taking money off Chinese, Russians, Ukrainians, Romanians, dodgy people all around the world in exchange for favours using the US taxpayers' money. They should both end up in an orange jumpsuit, preferably somewhere like Guantanamo Bay. So instead of just getting locked up, we can do fun things to them. Like, put a packet of pork scratchings over their head and wire the genitals up to the mains. We all know that's what goes on in Guantanamo, isn't it? No, is that just a rumour? Oh, okay, right. The US government denied it, so it definitely doesn't happen. Yeah. After the last 4 years, I don't think I'd believe anything they'd tell me. I read a story once about them torturing people in Guantanamo with Barney the dinosaur. I don't know what type of large, spiky sex toys he was using on them, but at this point, I believe it. Yeah, I think I'd believe almost anything that was to the contrary of what the US government told me at this point. But hopefully things are going to get better now the Orange Oracle is finally going to ascend to the Golden Throne. Okay, we'll see. That's the big news from the day. I think tomorrow I'm going to make a point about the fact that for some reason that bloke off the telly telling some risque jokes is being like a bigger story for a week than the British government and the mainstream media covering up for, 500,000 Rogered schoolgirls. That's quite weird how that's been the biggest story of the week, isn't it? But I'll save that for tomorrow. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comments and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take it easy. Toodle pip. Cheers.